any time if they detect odors or if they get a complaint from somebody in the surrounding community. And we do it. We don't, we're not bashful about it. So stopping construction. And then we'll figure out some way of getting around the problem. The last thing I want to talk about is what we call in situ solidification, which is a fancy bureaucratic term for turning the soil into cement or into concrete. There's a couple of techniques for doing this. This one is a site up in Port Jervis on the Pennsylvania border inside the tent. Soil stabilization is something you do after you've gotten all the structures out of the ground, and when you're dealing with little seams and streaks of tar contamination here and there. It's not always worthwhile to dig all that stuff out of the ground when it can be solidified in place. I say solidified. This is a material when we're done with it that can still be excavated if you have to. It's hard. I tell people it's about the strength of a really stale cookie. You can still dig through it if you have to, but the pore spaces are all blocked up. The tar's not going anywhere. The groundwater's not going to get into contact with the tar. It does a very good job of basically isolating the problem in place. We can also do this deeper than you can do excavation, especially in a neighborhood like this with sandy soils and high water table. The difficulties involved in digging deep holes go up very, very rapidly once you get below the water table. So going more than 8-10 feet below ground surface, the costs and the overall complexity of the job go up very rapidly. Oh yeah. Give you an idea, this site is on 17th Street in Lower Manhattan. That's the Highline Park, which is, I believe, now the most heavily patronized urban park in the world. And we did not get a single odor complaint from them, despite the fact that we did this on hot summer days when the park was chock full of people. I don't know if you've ever walked that, but on a warm afternoon in the summer, it is literally shoulder to shoulder, wall to wall. Okay, at the risk of repeating myself too often, we have found contamination at the site. We have evaluated how far that contamination has spread away from its source, but we haven't been able to get in and map the actual source itself in detail. But it's an MGP site. We've done these a lot. We got a real good idea of what's under there. And we've got a real good idea of what technologies can be used to address that if the redevelopment goes forward. But again, let me emphasize, that's an if, and that's an if that we do not control. If the place is torn down, we will require National Grid to go in and remediate that. That's subject to a long-standing legal agreement, and they're under legal obligations to do that. But that is not the same as saying the EPC supports the redevelopment of the site, because we do not have a role to play in that decision. What would be required? You heard George say that there is no remediation plan here. That's absolutely correct. It would take several months worth of work to develop such a plan. What would the components be? Pre-design investigation. In other words, we gotta go drill through the bottom of that shopping mall and see exactly what's down there, so we know what to expect in terms of structures. How deep do we have to dig? At what point could we go from digging to some other remediation technique? They would send a draft remedial design into us. This would probably be something we call an interim remedial measure. It's a fancy bureaucratic term for a remedy that's so obvious that you don't really have to go through much thought about it. I shouldn't say that. There's a lot of thought that goes into it, but the actual technology of what do you do there is relatively straightforward. There will be another public meeting to discuss the details of that. any project that comes up like this generates concerns about construction noise, generates concerns about truck traffic, that kind of stuff. We've done a lot of these projects. We've done a lot of them in heavily built up areas in Brooklyn and in the other 4 boroughs. We'll be back to discuss those details when those details are available. Unfortunately, they're not available tonight because there isn't a plan, and there isn't even a decision as to whether there needs to be a plan. Following that, the final design gets approved. National Grid goes out and procures a remediation contractor. Those contractors are specialists in MGP and other environmental remediation, so that procurement process can take several months. You don't want just anybody doing this work. And as I said, we've got a pretty good working relationship with Grid and with their contractors, and consequently, we're confident that we can do this job and do it well if it needs to be done. The remedial construction work will then proceed with our oversight. We have 3 inspectors that do nothing but drive around from one MGP site to the other and observe and make sure people are doing what they say they're going to do. We also have provisions when those guys get overloaded to hire temporary inspectors through construction management companies, and we've used them, and they have quite a few people who've done MGP sites repeatedly also, so there's a good talent pool available there. That's the end of my presentation. We'll have a question and answer period a little later on, but for now I want to introduce Alan Marco. Oh yeah, one last thing. We've been told by the developer that they plan on acquiring some more subsurface data for their design purposes. So you may very well over the next couple of weeks see people out in the parking lot of the mall with a drilling rig taking soil samples. That's not our investigation. It's their investigation for the purposes of figuring out how big the pilings have to be, how deep they have to go. However, we're not sitting still and just watching that happen. We're going to assign people to go observe the soil samples that they collect, because it's free information. It's a check on whether our conclusions are correct. So we'll have either somebody from DEC or one of National Grid's observers out there. But I just want to let you know that's not a DEC investigation program. That is us piggybacking on borings that are being done by the developer. Okay, now, Mr. Martin.
Hi, I'm Albert Marco. I'm with the State Health Department. We work with DEC and we help provide oversight of these MGP sites as well as other contaminated sites throughout the state. Our role is we evaluate ways in which the public can be exposed to site contaminants. We work to prevent or minimize exposures that could or may occur in the future. So now I'm just going to give just a brief explanation of exposure. Exposure is defined as physical contact with a chemical or substance through direct contact, touching, ingestion, eating or drinking it, inhalation. One or more of these must occur in order to begin exposure. Potential exposure pathways for the site. The contact or ingestion of contaminated soil to groundwater are unlikely since the site's covered. Public water is available, so you're not drinking the groundwater. Inhalation of VOCs, soil vapor intrusion, has the potential to occur at the site, but it's not ongoing. We've done sub-slab indoor air samples inside the district wall. During any ground intrusive activities, we require the community air monitoring program that Gardner described. It was those sensors that are around the site, upwind and downwind. Some of the sites, we get daily reports or weekly reports. We make sure there's no exposures. If If there is an exceedance, they have to describe to us what they did to mitigate that exceedance. DOH will continue to assist the EC by reviewing all remedial options, make sure they're protective of public health, and that the community around the sites are not exposed. We recommend actions to address exposure if necessary. And we help to communicate the results and remedial plans to the public when we're doing tonight. So I can answer any questions regarding exposure to the site, and I'll be available for any questions.
Thanks, Alan. I also wanted to point out William Wu here, who's on my staff. He is the project manager that handles the day-to-day work at the site. He'd be your point of contact if you have questions via email or by phone. The contact information is up there. If you don't have a pencil to write it down, that same contact information appears on the fact sheets that are available at the back of the room. We have, if I've got the count right, 27 people that would like to either ask questions or speak. And what I'd like to do is bring you folks down, anybody who signed up to the microphones here. I've got a 2-minute time period allotted for each question. First, let's say the first 10 names here: Cynthia Tyson, Brian Gottlieb, Andrea Bowram, Ellie Corraba, Ralph Fetto, Alex Burke, Irving Brook, and Saul Herman, Ida Sanoff, and Jeff Sanoff. We'll get to the rest of you folks in a moment. Councilman Deutsch, would you? Okay, Mike. I'm sorry.
Testing 1, 2. Good evening, everyone. And I want to really thank you all for coming out tonight, this cold winter night. The last meeting we had, a town hall meeting, there was not one seat available. And I'm very proud of this community for coming out, showing your concerns, and being out with us. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge some of the elected representatives that are here today with us. We have Frida Ramos, representing Harrison and Hakeem Jeffries. Steve Zeltza, representing the Brooklyn Borough President, Eric Adams. We also have Jesse Coleman, representing City Controller Scott Springer. Anyone else? Eddie Mark for Assemblyman Alec Brasney, and I would also like to acknowledge Alex Slater for State Senator Leanne Savino. I would also like to acknowledge my staff who is here with us tonight. Mary Scott, my Chief of Staff, please stand up. Where's Mary? Mary Summer. She's in the back. My Deputy Chief of Staff, Tova Katsaroff. My Communication Director is Vicky DeVitas. Constituent Services, Tiffany Sang. And Constituent Services, Irina Plevna. And Constituent Services, Mary Taylor. I think I got everyone who's here tonight. I just want to say that, the state and the city, we have the state DC, we have National Grid, we have many city agencies that are involved in development. And it's not just about development, it's not just about saying, okay, we're going to put up a building. It's about accountability. Our city government, our state government our job. We're going to check the site and let you know if you can open the site, if you can do any type of remediation. We'll let you know how dangerous it may be. It's not about permits and conducting traffic studies. It's a possible effect of losing our resources because a green light is given for any type of development. You know, it affects the surrounding community. It affects many hundreds, sometimes thousands of people. And I have to say, as your elected representative, I've been in office now for 1 year, and I am forewarning our city agencies, and I am forewarning our state agencies, that before any decisions are made, before you give any approvals, you need to look out for the people that reside in the surrounding areas. What about preparedness? What about our future? What's going to happen with the future of our communities? What's going to happen to the future of our neighborhoods? When you just go ahead and you say permits are given, traffic is great, it's not, but there are traffic studies that you get paid for and you say, yes, everything is good, everything is fine and dandy, but it's not. And that's why it's important for our voices to be heard loud and clear. And I think that if we continue without them listening to us, this may be a catastrophe waiting to happen. We have shopping centers nearby. We have shopping centers nearby. And we're not talking about a development where we have Walmarts, where we may be upstate, Pennsylvania, or other areas. Yes, this is Brooklyn, but 90% of our resources may be taken away. We need our voices to be heard. We are most vulnerable. We have those that are sick, those that are frail, and those that cannot fend for themselves. We have the elderly. And throughout New York City, we always talk about our senior citizens. What do we say? What our elected officials say? Yes, we must take care of our seniors. So let us take care of our seniors today. So this is not just about doing a job. It's not just about looking at a certain site and saying yes or no. It's about what will benefit and how our communities will benefit or not from a project that is being proposed and built. At the last meeting that was scheduled for January 21st, the meeting was on and then the meeting was canceled. People want to know why was the meeting canceled. They called my office, I had hundreds of calls. And that is because the EC said we have a 7-day notification process and we need to come out before the developers. And that is the rule. But let me tell you something, that if you have a 7-day notification process, where is the notification on the DEC website? We need to know every minute of what is going on the site. So when you talk about notification, we want notification. When we will hold you accountable for that. Our community residents voiced their very justified doubts and misgivings about the excavation and construction of the site, such as noise pollution, traffic jams, hazardous materials falling behind in quality of life, lack of parking, the immediate elimination of our shopping and our commercial areas. If excavation and construction begin beneath the parking lot and shopping center, additional health and safety measures will be required to reduce exposure on these contaminations. We have many concerns, and we are rightfully cautious of the many possible harmful effects of contaminants, particularly on our senior population. We all remember 9/11, when the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, assured the public that you could return. How many lawsuits are there after 9/11? No more recently, when a fire raged through the building in Williamsburg, the building was burning. The Department of Health said, the air is fine, you can go out. But then they admitted we came out too late. Where is our oversight? We need oversight. And let me tell you something. There's many issues here that need to be addressed. And I find surprising that a fire burning just in Williamsburg could take such an effect on people's health. How do we know when such sites gets excavated that our health will be watched? How do we know? We need to hold people accountable. We need to hold the agencies accountable. We need to hold the people that are supposed to look after us accountable. And thank you for being with us. I am here tonight together with my constituents to ask the questions of EDC and National Grid. Will the Trump village remediation be effectively executed? We don't know. We need answers. We need to know that there's 200 manufacturing gas plants throughout the state. We need to know which community groups are in those areas. We need to know from past experiences from our neighborhoods. We have nothing right now. So I am requesting the DEC to please get us as much information of other sites that we had remediation, community groups, people who reside in these sites, so this way we could look into it further and speak to people, learn more. This is very nice that we have a nice forum here with a presentation which is mandated, but we need to know for ourselves. And let me tell you one last thing. As your elected representative, I will do everything in my power. I have many different developments going on throughout my district, and at times I feel like I work for city planning or Department of Buildings. And thank God I have a great staff, and we did have over 1,800 cases that we worked with constituents since 2014, for the year of 2014, and I am proud of that. So there's a lot more to do. I did not get endorsed by the real estate revenue group or any other real estate group. I have no personal interest in taking money from developers. And I will tell you one thing, that I will stand with you. I know your plight, I know your concerns, and now I know our community. So thank you, and let's hit the questions, and let's get the answers, and it's to be continued, because this is just the beginning. Thank you very much.
Hello, I've lived here over 51 years, and I've been through many storms in the area. My question is, since you decide to open the ground, what if we're a flood zone? What if we get another storm? Your flimsy buildings that you put up won't stand. I saw my own car go down West 5th Street. I mean, what protection would we have if floodwaters went into all that poison that's in the ground and spread it through the whole area, which could happen?
We actually considered that during the remedial design, and we have had several sites. We've had several hurricanes upstate in the last couple of years also. And what you do is, when you see a storm like that coming, you shut down, you backfill the hole, and you stop work until the storm passes.
Because what you showed us on the picture, they're working in beautiful sunlight, but we get storms here.
Yeah, that is absolutely true, and that is something we have to build into the design provisions. We had sites in the field during Sandy. We had sites in the field during Hurricane Irene upstate, and what we did is we shut down. We made the sites safe, and we waited for the storm to blow over. And we did indeed lose fabric off of the buildings. They didn't collapse, but we did indeed loose fabric in our islands. That's a problem, and it's a legitimate problem, but it's a manageable one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Brian Gottlieb. I've lived in the building directly behind the shopping center for nearly 30 years. And rather than comments, I have a few questions. How long does it take to develop a cleanup plan, and what type of involvement would the community have in the cleanup plan? What kind of costs are involved in the different types of remediation, and with the decision, to the extent it goes forward, of the manner in which remediation would be done be made in terms of science or cost? And also, with regard to the infrastructure in the surrounding community, even in a moderate rain, the sewers back up and there's a ton of flooding. So it's not just a matter of a hurricane, it's a heavy snowstorm, it's nor'easters, it's heavy rains. I mean, let's not be grandiose in terms of a hurricane, God forbid, like Sandy coming again. Also, to the extent remediation is done, who is the final say on who's doing the remediation and what qualifications those individuals have to have? Is there money already in place? I understand the consent order, but is there physical money in place to do the job if it goes forward? Or is it pay as you go? Also, how will we make sure that the help the surrounding communities, of which there's 4 schools, PS 100, 370, IS 303, and Lincoln right here, all within a 1-block area? Also, with regard to the slide that you showed with regard to the spots of contamination, you also showed spots of contamination in the parking lot that's directly behind the shopping center. That's where I park my car. I live, and the area of contamination goes right adjacent to the building, where hundreds of thousands of people, of my neighbors live, including myself. What's going to be done, if anything, with regard to contaminated sites within the parking lot that's not part of the shopping center?
And let me see if I can remember all of those. Okay. Oh, God bless. Okay, working backwards. The first concern with the parking lot, you got to keep in mind 3 dimensions. The only place where we saw contamination within 15 feet of the ground surface was immediately at the back door of the mall. By the time you see those red dots farther away across the parking lot, that contamination is many, many feet farther underground, and it's got clean soil and clean groundwater sitting on top of it. Okay. As for excavation during ordinary rain events, one of the nice things about working under a tent is that the tent not only keeps the odors in, it keeps the rain out. And if it doesn't, one of the things that our inspectors are told to do is look for contamination leaving the site. And in the case of coal tar, that's really easy because when it floats on, it's carried on the water surface, it turns this bright, brilliant rainbow color. It's very, very obvious if it's leaving the site. And that is absolutely not tolerated. We will shut you down in a heartbeat if we see that happen. Contractor qualifications, that has not been a very difficult problem. There's a very well-developed environmental construction industry out there with people, they're normally people we've worked with. These aren't fly-by-night contractors. As for whether National Grid has a specific pot of money set aside, I don't know that. That's something between them and the Public Service Commission. What I can say is that funding has not been a limitation so far. We've done dozens of these jobs, both with National Grid and with the other utilities upstate. And cost issues, obviously they argue about costs when it's time to select a remedy, but getting the bills paid has not been a significant issue. Your other question regarding whether it's science or cost, it's science throughout, science and sound engineering. Engineering judgments are made in there. But of course, if you come up with 2 equally protective things to do, one of which costs a fortune and one of which costs half of a fortune, we if they are equally protected. How long? Okay, how long to develop a plan? Good ballpark numbers, about 6 months. We're pushing along. Yeah, we will try to stay out of the way, but obviously we're not going to cut any corners for the sake of speed. The fact is, we've done a lot of these sites though, that the components of what you got to do are pretty well known. I think that's it.
What type of community involvement
Community
be
involvement
part of this process?
Okay, we will be back here at a public meeting to discuss the actual design. National Grid will have a hotline for community complaints, odor, noise, what have you. That's answered during daylight hours, and take a message if it's off hours. Any time that you hear something, again, I am assuming that there's actually a remedial project here, right? And that's an assumption. But if we do go forward and you see something that you don't like, call William, call me, call the Department of Health if you have health concerns. That's what we're here for. Our job is to protect you folks. That's what we do. That's what you guys pay us to do. And we take that very seriously. As for accountability, we're the first in line. If complaints come in, we'll hear about them. We'll hear about them from you, we'll hear from your electeds, and we'll hear from the administrative staff in the city.
Would there be any coordination with the schools in the area? I mean, there are 4 schools, and plus nursery schools within the area. And it's because I walk past the shopping center every day to and from work, along with the students for each of the schools.
That's typically a traffic planning issue. And then the way we deal with that, there's a lot of truck traffic that comes in and out on these sites. Cement and backfill soil coming in, contaminated soil coming in. That is part of the remedial design process to establish when and where those trucks can go. The city has a very, very nicely advanced planning document on truck routing, so it's not something we have to invent from scratch. If you've got a contaminated site in New York City, call up somebody at City DOT and they tell you this is the route the trucks should